And good evening, everybody, and welcome to another edition of Real Fellas Talk Sports. I'm David Burnett, and with the fellas, and I'd like the fellas to introduce themselves. Larry Abels, how you doing?
I'm great, David. How about you?
I'm doing great. Chuck Snowden, how about you?
I'm doing wonderful. It's been a lot of weeks in a row. We've all been together, which has been pretty cool. It's like 5 or 6 weeks we've all been together. I like that.
Hey, that's a good thing. And let's talk to the sports doctor. Earl, go Rush, how are you?
I'm doing great, David. Looking forward to an exciting show this evening.
All right, it will be exciting, but we've got to start with some serious news right up front. Obviously, we're going to talk about the Super Bowl, a lot of discussion about the Super Bowl, but a Super Bowl-related incident did occur today out in Kansas City, and unfortunate. At least 20-some people shot, one killed, and maybe as many as half of them were children. Let me start with you, Chuck. Your thoughts on the incident at the parade in Kansas City, the victory parade in Kansas City that turned tragic.
It's horrible, David. It's just horrible. I have a pet peeve in our culture right now, and it's guns. And every single day across the country, and this just the example of it gone really crazy. Here in Washington, D.C., three policemen got shot in Washington today. So the guns are out of control. That's horrible what happened in Kansas City. I feel bad. And I don't know what to say about it. I just think the guns, we need to get them off the streets and put some laws in place. But it's like hollering at the moon. No one seems to be able to put that genie back in the bottle.
Yeah, I hear you. It's tough out there. Earl, your thoughts on the unfortunate incident out there in Kansas City?
My prayers go out to the victims and their families, and there's nothing else I can say. Obviously, the country is not going to do anything about the guns down here, so all we can do is just deal with it because nothing's going to be done about it. But it's a tragedy.
It is a tragedy.
It is a tragedy. Larry, your thoughts?
Echo what Charles and Earl said. Bad rules, laws, laws that don't enforce gun control. My prayers go out. My thoughts and prayers are with families of the victims, and I'm really upset that some moron would feel the need to take an automatic weapon to a freaking parade. I mean, that's regardless of the laws. Why do you have to do that?
It makes no sense whatsoever. Anyway, a very tragic way to end up the celebration in Kansas City. Let's talk about more positive things regarding the Super Bowl. Kansas City Chiefs winning in exciting fashion over the San Francisco 49ers. Just your thoughts of the game. I thought it was one of the great Super Bowls that we have seen, and all four of us have seen just about every single Super Bowl, which means we're pretty old. And let me start with you, Chuck. Your thoughts about the game.
So I thought I echo your points again, David. Here's the thing: the first part of that game I thought was pretty. I don't know. It was kind of a little boring and some turnovers and so forth. But when that thing got going, it really got going. It was exciting as hell all the way through the end. And it came down to the magic of Mr. Patrick Mahomes that Earl has been telling us about for the last couple of 3 years. But man, did he really manifest himself in late in the game and in that overtime period?
Larry, your overall thoughts about the game, and we'll get more specific later, but just your general thoughts about the game.
Let's start off by I'm the only one in the whole world that picked San Francisco. All my viewers. So I'm eating crow heads right here on the table. I kind of looked at it like Chuck. I wasn't that thrilled with it early on. The ending was very good. It was pretty, a great climax. I differ with Chuck a little bit. I think the guy that had the magic was Chris Jones. I think he actually made two plays defensively where San Francisco probably could have scored a touchdown. Kept them close, and then you keep Mahomes close long enough, he's going to hurt you later on.
Yes, indeed. Earl, your thoughts about the game?
I thought it was a great game. A lot of people thought it was started out slow, but I even thought that part was great because both defenses were very good. I thought it was a great game. I don't have any complaints about the game. Even the ref didn't even do anything stupid this game, which was the rarity. And, it was just a great game. I said it for the 8th time. I've said that out in the last two phrases. I don't even know who to point the blame on why they lost. I mean, both teams just played great. You know?
It went to overtime. You can't ask for anything more than that. It went to overtime. And real quickly, before, we're going to do something before I talk about the great Patrick Mahomes. We talked about the defense. It was great defensive efforts on both sides, on both teams. But the 49ers today fired Steve Wilks, the defensive coordinator for the 49ers. He got 1 year, and that was a good team. What do you think happened? And let me start with you, Earl. What do you think happened to Steve Wilks?
I'm not quite sure. I mean, I don't know how much time you're going to give the coach. You got to give him at least a year. They gave him that year. They're saying it's not a good fit. I don't understand what that means, but I'm not in the organization. It may not have been a good fit to the people who are in that organization. I don't know, but it seems a bit unfair. And I don't know. It looked like they're looking for a scapegoat or something. Or they found a scapegoat.
I was going to say that. And let me ask Larry to elaborate, just go further with that. It looks like a scapegoat circumstance.
So let's look at it this way. And tell me if you guys think it's a scapegoat. He held Kansas City in regulation to 1 touchdown. They got that touchdown after a turnover on a punt. Okay, you hold them to 1 touchdown. Maybe your offense didn't do enough. Of course, that's right. Shanahan's running that, right? So, but yeah, scapegoat. I'm 100% with scapegoat.
It just feels so scapegoatish to me. And Chuck, do you agree with that?
I do too. Larry makes a good point. I thought that punt, that muff punt situation was the turning point of the game. I know there were other things that happened later, but when that offense wasn't doing anything against that defense until that happened, and then that thing started to click. So maybe they looked at the Lions game and the Green Bay game, and maybe they didn't like the defense in those 2 games because they gave up a lot of points in those 2 games. Because I didn't see anything about the Super Bowl that a guy could get fired over. So it was just odd. I thought it was very odd.
Well, it brings up the fact that just a couple of years ago, Steve Wilks was in a similar situation as a head coach of the Arizona Cardinals. He got 1 year, and the team wasn't that bad to justify a 1 year for Wilks. Now he becomes coordinator for a great team. He gets 1 year. Is there something up with him? Is that a possibility that he just doesn't have enough allies in the league to last long enough? Larry, your thoughts?
I'll still go back and say 1 touchdown in regulation came after the punt. Perhaps if they could have converted on 1 of the 3rd downs, maybe if somebody had blocked Chris Jones, they win the game. They had 2 first 3rd downs they had to convert on, and they could have won the game. I'm looking on the offensive side of the ball that couldn't get it done. Now, I do think they played kind of soft on the last 2 possessions that the Chiefs got, last possession of regulation. I thought they let them nickel and dime them because they had been stopping them all day. Other than 1 drive, they had stopped them all day.
Earl, was Steve Wilkes treated fairly? Is he a guy that doesn't have the kind of allies that he needs around the league to be released from a head coaching job after 1 year, to be released from a prime coordinator position after one season? What do you think?
I think, well, what I think is kind of funny that he worked for someone else, and then he landed a job with the 49ers, and the 49ers hired him. He must have had some kind of decent resume for the 49ers to pick up. They don't usually hire any bums. So I think it's something about that guy. Because it can't be too much of a coincidence that he gets fired after 1 year with another club, and then the next year, next time he coaches, he gets fired after 1 year. That doesn't make sense. This guy did a great job. San Francisco's offense was defense was awesome. I don't even know how they lost the game. There's nothing he had done for them to fire him. So to answer your question, after the long soliloquy, no, he's not treated fairly.
Well, let's talk coaches. Since we're talking coaches now, let's go to the head coach, Kyle Shanahan. He's the so-called offensive wizard genius. He's been given so many accolades over the years. But what has he won? He's been to the Super Bowl a couple of times, 0. He's been an offensive coordinator at the Super Bowl, 0. Why isn't there more criticism of Kyle Shanahan? I just haven't seen it, haven't heard it, and I think he deserves some critique of his performance as a head coach. And let me start with you, Chuck.
Well, they were in the Super Bowl. I mean, he's in the Super Bowl with Mr. Irrelevant. He was winning the Super Bowl with Garoppolo. I mean, he must be doing something to get to the Super Bowl. I would take him. I'll tell you that. I still think he's a pretty good coach. And unfortunately, in a game like we saw Sunday, somebody got to lose. Somebody's got to lose. And the plays just didn't get made. And like Larry said, if they had a block Chris Jones, why you let him come up the middle wide open is beyond me. And it could have cost them. And they did that a couple of times. So,
Larry, what kind of a coach do you think Kyle Shanahan is?
I think he's a very decent coach. I have no problem with it. Hasn't won a Super Bowl, but he's, like Chuck said, he's been there. His teams usually are successful. I can't play. That game Sunday could have gone either way. I can't knock him. I take him, like Chuck said.
Earl, you take Kyle Shanahan as your head coach?
I would. I mean, yes, I would. He's taken the last 2 teams he's taken to the Super Bowl. The quarterbacks weren't really that good. He didn't have no idea that the guy that's the current quarterback was going to turn out to be a good quarterback. I mean, he took 5. The guy's a good coach. I'm sorry to be stumbling today, guys. I apologize. Yes, well, I believe he's a good coach.
I'm kind of mixed on that, to be honest with you. It just feels like to me, unless you have a bunch of people who are patting you on the back, you have the media who is endorsing you and kissing your ass, you are in trouble. And Kyle Shanahan is just a blessed man regarding the media. The media loves him. They think he's a genius. I'm not sure. I think he's a phony, but that's just me.
I don't know if he's a genius, but you even have to look at last year's team. They were right there until both of their quarterbacks got hurt, and they just couldn't pass the ball in an NFC Championship game.
Well, at some point, you got to win. We're giving them a lot of pass.
I was just saying last year they couldn't even throw the ball.
They had Christian McCaffrey throwing the football.
Yeah. I'll say another thing about him, which is a compliment. He look at the people who has left his staff. The coach from his defensive coordinator from a year ago went to the Texans, very successful. The guy McDaniels from his staff went to the Miami Dolphins, very successful. So it's not just that he can coach them up. He's lost his coordinators, and they still keep rolling. And they made a move to go up and get the number 2 player in the draft. That didn't work out. He cut his ties, kept it moving. And so you got to give the guy credit. He's doing a lot with the pieces that he has, in my opinion.
Well, my man Joe Bernard, I think he's calling it right. You know, there are a lot of questions, and I think that's part of the reason that Steve Wilkes has gone to take some of the heat off of Kyle Shanahan, because he made some mistakes in terms of the overtime decision. I'm just not that sold on Kyle Shanahan. I just think he's the beneficiary of some great PR over the years. And he has a great dad that won 2 Super Bowls, and that buys you some time. That's just what I think.
Can someone enlighten me? I really don't understand. What is the big deal about the overtime thing? I don't understand it, because as he said, if they go through 2 overtimes, they had the first one to get the ball in the sudden death situation. So what was wrong with what he did on that? It doesn't make sense.
You know, whatever he had done, it could have been a bad outcome. Whatever he had done.
Mm-hmm.
So I wasn't beating up on him. I mean, I can see why people would say go the other way. Had they scored a touchdown, that would have put a lot more pressure on Kansas City, though.
Is the media that bored? Evidently they are, to bring up this after all they get to that great game. Come on. So he didn't. What would be the difference if he took the ball, if he didn't take the ball first?
Well, you know, there has to be something to talk about.
Yeah.
There has to be a turning point, and it was a particular play. I'm in agreement with you guys. I don't see it as a big issue, but it's become a big issue. We don't control, the public consumption of what happened. All I know is there's a lot of folks that think it was an issue. And
How about the fact that Mahomes made a couple of big runs on third down, on those drives and on 4th and 1 or whatever it was, got 8 yards.
That was a good play call.
I mean, it was a hell of a play call. And, you can dissect until the cows come home, but Kansas City made the plays at the critical time, and the 49ers made the decisions to do it safely. I'm telling you, if that punt doesn't go off that guy's foot, or if they get that first down,
on third down on regulation,
that game changes, because it could have run the clock out.
I agree with you.
That's why it was such a good game.
All right, now let's talk about the man of the hour, Patrick Mahomes, who's now got 3 Super Bowls, of which he is one of the lead components in those victories. Unlike Tom Brady, whose first 3 Super Bowls he wasn't really responsible for, but Mahomes was. All right, let's give Mahomes a grade for his career, for the game. Where is he? Earl, Patrick Mahomes, your thoughts on his play? Where does he rank overall? What do you think?
I love Patrick Mahomes, and I can't say just overall. He hasn't played long enough for me, and but he's very impressive. His overall grade, I would give him a grade as a quarterback for this year, or just overall since he's been playing.
Overall, because we're talking about he could be the next GOAT.
I give him a B+ overall. For the game, I would give him. I give him a B. I don't think he played that great. He just did what he had to do to win the game. I don't think his stats were all that. He had 300 yards, so that was pretty good. But I give him a B for the game, and I give him a B+ overall, to answer your question.
All right, now let me go to you, Larry. A lot of thoughts about Patrick Mahomes. He is a magician. He is one of the great young quarterbacks that we've seen. But it seems like he may not have a great. He did throw kind of a bad interception early in the game. But when it matters, when everything is on the line, he seems to come through. What do you think, Larry?
Well, I think he definitely did that, but this really was a game where I thought he got too much credit. Again, I'll keep going with Chris Jones. He won that game for me. But he kept it close, and when you got Mahomes, when it's close, he's going to bite you. One thing that early on in the game, I knew I was in trouble, because the first time San Francisco got the ball, they drove down the field and fumbled. The next time Kansas City had a 3 and out. The next time they got it, they drove down the field, and then Trey Johnson got 2 back-to-back penalties and took him out of first down and field goal range. And I'm like, those are 2 opportunities where you should have gotten at least 6 points.
Mhm.
I'm like, I can see it happening somewhere down the line. I said, okay, you let Mahomes stay close enough, he's going to hurt you at some point. But giving him an overall grade, I think he's the best player right now. He wasn't the best quarterback this season, but I think he probably is the best quarterback. I would take him over any other quarterback.
Chuck, how do you evaluate
I'd give him an
Patrick
A.
Mahomes?
I'd give him an A across the board. And here's what I mean by that. He's so likable, too. There's nothing about Patrick that I don't like. I mean, I like the way he handles himself in the post-game interviews. I like the way he handles himself on the field. I like the fact that his guys were dropping passes all year long. He never threw them under the bus. I just like him. And then when you give him that ball, there's nobody in America that did not think that they were getting the ball with 1:50 to go with 2 timeouts, down 3. He was at least going to tie it up, but a lot of us believed he was going to score a touchdown.
Mid-season and late career with Tom Brady, that's what Tom Brady was known for. When Tom Brady had a chance at the end of the game, you felt like he was going to get it. And that's what Patrick Mahomes seems to be now. Now, we're talking quarterbacks. Brock Purdy, the most beat up, most overanalyzed, most super criticized quarterback in many a year, for a guy that's been fairly successful in every game that he's played just about. I would say 80% of the games he's played fairly well.
Yeah.
What does he have to do to convince you guys that he's a legitimate, pretty good starting quarterback? Larry, your thoughts?
I don't have any doubt that he's a legitimate quarterback. I think he's a good quarterback. I have no problems with him. I think he's played very well. I think people that mention that Mr. Irrelevant, you never hear me say that. I mean, I think he goes out there and he plays. No problem with him.
I think Earl and I were probably the 2 biggest critics of us 4. And me and Earl had said it a couple weeks ago that, hey, listen, that guy's come a long way, and we no longer criticize him. And we think he's a legitimate, quality, high-end quarterback. So, and I think people have backed off of that. I don't think people are. I know people use phrases like game manager and all that stuff, but even that I don't take as negative. He's fine. I don't have a problem with Brock.
Let me ask you, Earl, just to go further on this point. The Mr. Irrelevant, how much did that play, and does that, present tense, does that play in how we evaluate how this guy plays? Is he going to ever shake the stigma of being Mr. Irrelevant?
I think so. I think he shouldn't even have that tag now, from what I'm saying. To answer your question, do people looking at funny because he was drafted late? I would imagine most of the people who don't know anything about the game would think that way. And I would think the average fan would think that way because they said if he was any better, he would have been drafted higher. But we all know that doesn't necessarily mean anything. There are plenty of late round picks that have come out to be all pros and whatever. So,
well, you make a good point, because the so-called greatest quarterback of all time was drafted in the 6th round. Folks don't want to recall that. And they also were kind of on his ass the first couple of years that he was a starter with the Patriots. So it took some time for us to get used to Tom Brady being the GOAT.
Even Montana wasn't drafted.
Montana was a 3rd round draft pick.
Yeah.
Who was the guy that coached the quarterback, the greatest show on turf?
Kurt Warner was not drafted at all.
He wasn't even drafted. He was a grocer.
And he became the most valuable player the very first year he was a starter in the NFL.
Now, David, though Earl and I have come along all the way on Brock Purdy, he is legit and all of those things. But another beauty or genius of Shanahan is that, in other words, if we drop Brock Purdy in with the Commanders, I don't know if he would be as
Well, I think, see, that's the problem I have.
I know, but I'm just being
That's the
honest
problem
about it.
I have. It's not fair because would Joe Montana have been just as great if he played with Chicago Bears?
Good question.
Not necessarily. He had the right coach, Bill Walsh, at the right time to get the best out of him. Everything kind of works together.
Well,
All right.
I'll even go further. Give him Debo and McCaffrey. He probably do a lot better here. Might not do it with the guys they got here.
And Trent Williams.
Yeah.
Probably so.
On another note, I was disappointed in Debo's performance. He keep always hyping him up, but he always comes up short as far as what I see.
Now, I mean, in fairness to Debo, could his injury have played a
But he's always getting hurt. He gets hurt a lot. He's not always getting hurt, but he gets hurt a lot.
But not only that, Kittles too. Kittles didn't do anything in that game either. And everybody tells me that Kittles is tough.
I was thinking that Kansas City just stopped him. But he had Kittles. And they held McCaffrey relatively in check.
Right.
All right. Now, let's talk about some other things related to the game. Let's talk coaches. And we've already talked a little bit about Kyle Shanahan, who, I'm not a big fan of. But let's talk Kansas City's great coach. What's going on with him? Can we now say that he is in the category of one of the top great coaches of all time? Is Andy Reid one of the great coaches of all time? Is that a way we can look at it, Earl?
I would say so. If you look at his overall record, I mean, even when he was coaching the Eagles, they weren't winning, but they were still going far in the playoffs. Either the conference championship or the Super Bowl. This guy's he's got a pretty good record. I don't like him, but I think he's a very good coach. To answer your question, I think he's up there with the best of coaches.
You would not let him steal your nuggies, right?
No.
Chuck, your thoughts?
I like him a lot. I thought this year, to show you, and Joe Gibbs used to do this too, who I think is a great coach as well. This year was about the defense. That defense maybe didn't get enough credit this year. That defense was as good as any defense in the league. And Andy, who's an offensive guy, they kind of shifted that thing, and until the offense could catch up come playoff time. And I give him a lot of credit for that. And I give him a lot of credit. He's a heck of a coach.
Larry.
I think he's a good coach. I thought he's a good coach in Philly. Thought he did a great job even when he had McNabb. A lot of people were hard on McNabb, and they didn't win the Super Bowl, but they got a lot of mileage. He got a lot of mileage out of McNabb. And he has a better quarterback and better players in Kansas City. So, and like Chuck said, he's allowed his defense. Actually, they had a team, both sides of that ball did what they needed to do Sunday.
Okay. All right. Now, another topic connected to the Super Bowl, but it's one that's been building for weeks and weeks. And her name is Taylor Swift. All right. The camera went to Taylor Swift about 8 or 9 times, maybe more during the game. I just want to get a sense of you guys' thoughts of Taylor Swift, because I can't identify any song of hers. I just know what she looks like, and I know what she looks like in an owner's box and all of that stuff. Chuck, Taylor Swift, what does she mean to you?
So I don't. Listen, I'm talking about me now, right? I don't know that much about Taylor. And ever since this has gone down, there's nothing that I don't like about her. Like, I think she too, given how big a star she is, she seems cool to me. There's nothing about her I dislike, and I have no problem with it. And boy, the NFL got lucky to get more clicks and get more people to join in and watch that thing. I think it was the most watched show or TV show since the moon landing or something ridiculous that I heard. And I think she's part of that reason as well. I have no problem with Miss Taylor Swift. I don't.
Larry, what do you think of Taylor?
I feel neutral about her. I mean, she was there because it was so many people. I heard so many people on TV saying my daughter's going to watch the game with me because Taylor Swift there. As far as adding any value to the game, I think it's zero. But I didn't care. Good for them. Good got viewers, and that was their goal.
Let's turn to our entertainment chief, Mr. Earl Go-Go Rush. You would probably offer the most astute assessment of Taylor Swift as a girlfriend of a great player and as an entertainer. What do you think of Taylor Swift?
Well, to be honest with you, I've never heard a Taylor Swift song. The only time I've seen her close up is when the TV show was at the Super Bowl this year. But so I don't really have that many thoughts on her as far as them as a girlfriend. Haven't gone out with them. I don't see how they interact. I saw they may kiss each other a little bit, but okay, well, that was Valentine's Day. But there's nothing to dislike about her. All the attention that she's bringing to the NFL and all the money that she's bringing to the NFL. What is there to dislike about her? Well, why would anybody dislike her? Unless they were one of those people who hate on people who get all kinds of attention or dislike people who are very popular, successful. I don't see any other reason why anybody would hate her.
Well, I'm agreeing with you. I agree with you guys. I think Taylor Swift, she didn't do anything wrong. She seemed harmless.
Yeah.
She seemed as supportive as a girlfriend, if that's what she really is. I'm not sure she's really a girlfriend. I think it could be promotional, but even if it's not, good for her because she does come across as kind of the girl next door, even though I don't know a damn thing about her music.
I have a question.
Yes, sir.
Since none of our viewers give a damn about Taylor Swift, and we spend too much time on her.
No, we haven't.
I don't think we get any clicks.
You never. Hey, no clicks on Taylor Swift. Wrong.
Bang!
Bang!
On cue. Hey, Sharice.
All right, guys.
Sharice,
Couple more things. Is there anything else you guys want to talk about?
There's one thing I want to mention, just real quick.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
It's amazing for guys like us who've watched a lot of Super Bowls and a lot of NFL games over the years. Man, these kickers, they kick these 55, 57, 58-yard field goals like they're nothing now. I mean, if you're 60 yards or in, it's done. It's in. I just find that pretty fascinating.
Speaking of that, everybody, all the kickers now.
I find Charles. I'm sorry, David. I find Charles is over exaggerating with 60 yards in this, and it's automatically a field goal. A lot of field goal kickers not kicking that ball that far. Come on, Charles.
Well,
this is what you said. You said if the field goal is 60 yards, it's in. Come on, you're exaggerating.
That's a slight exaggeration, but
hold on. I just want to make one. Let me just make one point about that. So the 57 and 58-yard kicks that they make, they're still 4 or 5 yards over the crossbar. I mean, they're not just barely clearing it.
That doesn't mean that every 60-yard field goal is considered to be in, though, Charles. That's what you said. If it's 60 yards, you can consider it in. David said it was a little over there. It was a big exaggeration.
The legs have gotten stronger over the years because they've had to move the
Don't say that if the 60 yards considered in. Come on, just stop it.
Well, there was a time, Earl, we watched the game, and they wouldn't kick 55, 57.
That is true.
Well, I would like to see the time when you say what you mean and say exactly what you mean. That's not what that's what you said.
All right. Any other
well, next week I'm going to bring the stats on 55-yard to 60-yard field goals and see if it substantiates my views. I'm going to bring some stats because that last game had a kicker from the 49ers and a kicker from the other team, and they made them. They were over 55 yards.
Real quickly on kickers, before we move on to the NBA and the All-Star game. How many of you guys, all three of you, saw the first time somebody kicked a field goal over 60 yards? Tom Dempsey was half of a foot. Did you see it, Larry?
I didn't see it live, but that was like on all the sports shows. 63-yard kick.
63 yards. And I remember them, pointing out the way his shoe was constructed, and he was a straight ahead kicker because you can't kick soccer style when you got half a foot. So that would be a problem. But
is that still the record? Is 63 still the record?
No.
Somebody
from Denver.
Yeah, somebody from Denver beat him.
I think it's 65 yards now. 65 or 66 yards is the NFL record.
Sounds so crazy.
Maybe one of our viewers can look it up while we talk. All right, NBA. I'm in the sports
David,
capital.
before we leave, you don't want to touch on the I know we can't cover everything, but you don't want to touch on the halftime show? I thought that was pretty cool, actually.
Oh, I am so sorry. Thank you for waking this old dude up. Usher, as some would call him, Usher. Usher is what he's called for real. What'd you think of it? Because I wasn't impressed at all. I think he's a great entertainer, but maybe I'm just too old. You guys' thoughts about Usher, Earl?
Yeah, David. Maybe you are too old. I thought the show was fabulous. He started out just a little slow in the beginning, but that was I thought that show was awesome. The production, the choreography, the pace of the show. I give it 4.5. I give it 4.5 out of 5 or 9.5 out of 10. It was an excellent show. No, it was. What I have a problem with is everybody saying, "Yeah, that show wasn't better than Prince." Nobody asked you whether the show was better than Prince or not. They just asked if you liked the show. Why do people always got to bring up somebody else? That show was fabulous.
Okay.
I'm glad our entertainment guy liked it because I liked it a lot too. And my only two things. First, the fact that guy and his dancers could come out on that stage on roller skates in front of the world and perform like that, I thought that was amazing. And the other thing is, then this is a small criticism, is I thought Jermaine Dupri came out in that little outfit. He looked like like a small CeeLo Green or so. I thought I don't know. That was kind of weird. That was the only thing I thought was a little weird was Jermaine Dupri. But the rest of it, I thought the whole thing collectively was pretty cool.
Larry, your thoughts about?
I didn't really watch it. I was at a place. A buddy of mine, he had a 25-year-old daughter, so she and her girlfriends when we got up to get food, they kind of parked in front of the TV, and I heard them screaming. So by their reaction, I'm thinking Usher probably did pretty well, but I really didn't watch it.
Well, let me just say this, and I'm not offering a whole lot of opinion on when I moderate, but that said, I just saw a lot of Michael Jackson moves from Usher. Come up with your own moves. I saw a lot of Michael Jackson moves, and the halftime show got better when he was de-emphasized. Yeah.
Oh, let me ask you something, David.
Yes, sir.
When you saw Michael Jackson do his moves when you were coming up, when he was coming up in his prime, I just want to ask: are you aware that those were not his original moves?
The moonwalk was created back in the 1930s. So why
are you gonna get on someone about?
Because it just felt it looked like a ripoff of Michael Jackson, the way in which
Michael Jackson got those moves from other people. So why did you say that when you saw him do that?
Well, because that's how I felt at the time. I wanted him to do something a little bit different, and I wanted to hear some of the popular songs right up front. Like I said, I'm an old dude. I think I'm the youngest of this group. In fact, I am. I'm the youngest of our quadrant. But that said, I just wasn't I it just wasn't for me. But that said, let's move on. Let's move on to the NBA and the All Star game. Uh, I got your press credentials, getting them ready for you guys to visit Indianapolis to come see the greatest players in the world. Your thoughts about the NBA at this point, Larry, as we head to the All Star game, which is about two-thirds of the way into the season?
Yeah, I think it's a lot of parity in the NBA now. There's a lot of good teams. Teams like Minnesota have stayed well. You know, a lot of teams start off fast and can't keep going. They play well, as has Oklahoma City. Then some of the stalwarts in the West have been kind of struggling. As far as the East, I can't help but, and I know some guys on this panel don't like him, but I've noticed a big difference with Milwaukee with Doc Rivers as coach and the guy that they fired who had the second best record in the league. And Doc seems to be like the worst record since he's taken over. So I'm not sure about Milwaukee anymore.
I'm with you on that one. Chuck, your thoughts about where the NBA is at this point of the season?
Larry's point about the parity. There's a lot of good teams. And I thought coming into the season, Milwaukee and Boston were a lock in the East. I really thought they were that kind of strong. I don't think that no more. And I think New York, and I think, maybe your Pacers. I think if Miami can retool that thing. So in other words, I think that those teams the teams are closer than I had envisioned. And I think our West, it's really close. I have no clue because the Lakers and Golden State are 9 and 10. And both of them are playing pretty good now. And Minnesota is really good, and they're good with their defense. So I think it's going to be fun. I think buckle your seatbelts, my friend. This should be a lot of fun over the next few months.
Earl, your thoughts about the NBA at this point, two-thirds of the way through the season?
I don't have too much thoughts on it right now. I guess I'm waiting for the playoffs.
Well, you'll be waiting another couple of months. We literally have 2 months to go before the playoffs start.
That's right. I have patience. I don't have I don't have any timeline. And a lot of people are texting me, telling me that they're texting on the show, but their responses are not being shown.
Well, everybody's not going to be shown all the time. And Cherise and Mr. Fenner, let me make some folks happy now.
No. I'm the only one that wanted to be happy. I mean, if some people are going to be in, well, we'll talk about this after the show. This is not the place to talk about that. Anyway, let's move on.
All right. I'm looking forward to the NBA All-Star Game. The last time the NBA All-Star Game was here in Indianapolis was in 1985. I did see the slam dunk contest in 85. I was living in Dayton, Ohio at the time, drove over to see the slam dunk contest, and then drove back home to Dayton to see the game the next day. Anyway, I'm looking forward to it. Indianapolis has come a long way in those 30, how many years are we talking about? 30. I can't even do the math on that. Is that
almost 40?
Almost 40 is 39 years. 39 years last time Indianapolis had the All-Star Game. So I'm really looking forward to it. And
the NBA knows how to do that weekend too, man. They really know how to do and celebrate and party and it's just a good time. And kids love it. And
well, Indianapolis has come a long way in terms of creating an image for itself. It is arguably the most ready city for sporting events in this country. But that didn't come by that wasn't an accident. That was planned. And it was planned starting in the 70s all through now. So a 50-year effort to get to this point. Gentlemen, I think that's about all we've got today. Do we have any closing comments? Let me start with you, Larry.
I just want to, say the football season wrapped up. It was, you guys know I like close games. So even though I don't think this was the best Super Bowl, it was still a very, very good Super Bowl. And the ending was very, very good. my hat goes off to both teams, and I do think it's a travesty that Wilkes got fired. That was certainly I can't see why that was his fault.
Amen. Amen. Chuck, you have any closing
I
comments?
actually don't have a closing comment this week. I enjoyed the Super Bowl a lot, and it was a good closure to a good NFL season. So
Well, that's
it's
your
all
closing
about basketball now.
All right. Earl, any closing comments?
Yes, I would suggest to all the leagues, except for maybe the hockey league, maybe them too. I would just think that every year we should have all the important games at Las Vegas instead of Indianapolis or wherever they go around. I know they think it's fair to go around the country. I think that all the big events should be in Las Vegas. That's my closing.
Las Vegas has had so many big events. It is a mecca for sports. They're getting ready to get the NBA in there. They had the Super Bowl. They're going to, right now. It looks like they're in the argument for the expansion of the NBA. So they've got a hockey team that's won the Stanley Cup. They're getting the Oakland A's baseball team. They have the Raiders football team. So Vegas is a place. Closing comment from me. Just a thought about the University of South Carolina whooping up on the University of Connecticut. Women's basketball has changed hands. The big girls are the South Carolina Lady Gamecocks, right on, undefeated, the best team in women's college basketball. Gentlemen, this has been real. I've enjoyed it. I'm going to be downtown in a couple of days, taking a look at what's happening, the excitement here in this city. Anyway, stay tuned, folks, out in the
Are you going to the game, David?
What's that?
You going to the game?
I cannot afford to go to the game. I wish I could go to the game. I'm a poor retiree now.
Okay.
Just like all of us. I wish I could go. We'll see you guys next week at 8:00 when the real fellas talk sports once again.